village in Africa or anywhere in the world could become relevant, could connect, could teach people. But what we're contending with now is the quality of information that's going out there, but also, the ownership and the prosperity that people can earn off the back of their creativity, their work. What are the things you're doing? Because Akuna is focusing, for instance, on bringing content and building pathways to earning.
Yeah.
Tell us about that journey.
Yeah, so Akuna is my answer to building some sort of mechanism to help young creators across Africa. Akuna is my middle name. It means born on a Wednesday. Wednesday is a good day for me. I love Wednesdays. But Akuna is, positioning ourselves to help creators find not only ownership, but value, consistency, reach, distribution, financing. These are things that are tools. This has nothing to do with creation. This is about the tools for creation. These are the infrastructural pieces we need for creation to live, to be strengthened. And that's really important for African creators across many countries. Policy around creation is not developed enough to sustain those creators. The policy to allow the ownership, the participation from a financial positioning, these policies are not developed enough. So Akuna, which is essentially, supported by tech, can help build these small, devices, mechanisms to help creators. One of the big pain points for young creators across Africa is being able to see financials from TikTok, Google, all these things. Because of the banking information, that interconnectivity, young Africans are usually excluded. So the Akuna wallet is something that we've devised that actually helps that pain point. It's a small, simple thing. It doesn't mean that the stories will be better. It just means that if the stories are good, if they resonate, then those young African creators can see value in their stories. Okay. It was important for me to put something that is practical. Idris can stand at bridge and talk forever, but what is practical about that? So that's where Akuna was developed.
So we've got a lot of policy actors. Any policy actors in the room? Can we see hands? Private sector, yes. Private sector in the room, let's see some hands. Yes, development actors. There may be a few, I think a lot of content creators in this room, I think.
Yes.
But so if you were to say there's 2 or 3 critical things that policy actors, private sector generally, and content creators need to focus on in terms of systems now. So you're working on tools. What are the systems that we need to shift?
Okay, I mean, look, I like to preface everything I say that I live from instinct. I come from a place of instinct. I'm an actor, so it's instinctually for me to answer any question. I'm no expert. But my observation when I meet governance around this debate is the understanding of what is needs. That understanding, that base layer of understanding what policy can do for infrastructures is not very good, quite frankly.
That's where it starts.
So that's where it starts. So a system of understanding. Why do you need a policy? How does that benefit not only you, but the creator or the young person or your country or the information shared? How do you sustain it? And what are others doing? It's really important that we learn from each other and we think about some of the Korea, who has an incredible media story, incredible. Over the last 15 years, Korean film, music has a worldwide dominance. Why? Because there's been very careful, critical thinking around the blocks, the building blocks, from policy to distribution to marketing this product, okay? So for me, just understanding is a system that we need to do. Number 2, I think that it's linked to understanding, but it's value. Understanding the soft power of creation and the soft power that it can build for countries who are developing, okay? Sierra Leone, for example, they don't have a film policy. I've been working with the government and the information ministry about building that film policy. Why? Because there is a big young population there, and all they ever hear about is blood diamonds. They don't want to talk about blood diamonds anymore. They want to talk about other stories. So they need a policy, they need to be valued, and their stories to be valued as a way of correcting how Sierra Leone has been seen and understood. So these are some of the systems that, I think need to be really looked at carefully. And then the truth is, my instinct tells me that we need to be accepting of stories. Acceptance is really important. It's like we accept American stories because they're delivered with grace and elegance and pizzazz. But if a young African tells a story about their village, is our acceptance the same? Well, not always. That acceptance is part of how we, when we're in universities and we go to a class that we don't want to go to, we accept that we have to go to that class to learn, whether it's not our favorite subject or not. So that acceptance, that is a bridge, that is a two-way transaction. I accept your stories, you accept mine.
Powerful. That's really powerful. That's a good segue into Africa, deeper into Africa. And for a long time, I've called you son of Africa. And we do see you that way, and we see you connect back into the continent. Afrobeats is ruling the world. Music takes control, all over. In sport, we do so well. But there's something about our narrative sovereignty that we're not getting right, which I think is a point you were starting to make. Let's dive deep into the story of Africa. And the work that you are doing with young people on the continent, and how we plug into the global systems to add value, but also to bring value to the continent. What are you seeing emerging, and what do we need to know in this room?
Rephrase the question for me.
So simply, when you work with content creators in Africa, tell us about the potential that you are seeing if we truly give opportunity to the young person in Nairobi, Nigeria, Johannesburg, and connect them into the global system. What could that look like for them, and what's the responsibility we have to do that?
I saw this diagram, some of you may have seen it on Instagram, and it was a diagram of the flight paths around the world. And it was, designed where the aeroplanes in Europe, everywhere. Aeroplanes in America, everywhere. UAE, everywhere. In Africa, no aeroplanes.
Very few, for a few.
There are some in Lagos, some in South Africa, some in Kenya, but generally Africa was sort of like nobody's going there. It seems.
Yeah.
That is the opportunity.
Yes.
To propagate what is amazing about this incredible continent. And it's not just obviously one country, it's 54 of them, okay? And that's the opportunity for young people to look at. When I say young people and I talk about creators, I'm talking about the private sector. I'm talking about the startup community. Around the world, we see these incredible unicorn tech young people creating amazing tools. And the way they do it is by telling the story. This is my pain point, I want to fix it, and this is how I do it. That is the opportunity, I think, for Africans, young Africans. The truth is, Africans have so many untold stories, cultural stories, cultural perspectives that are not yet understood or seen. That is also an opportunity. So if I think about, I want to create a new gaming company in Africa, I'm overwhelmed by how many stories can be told via games from cultures that have not yet been seen and understood. This happened with Korea 15 years ago. Who knew that Korea's music would dominate the world? The connectivity of a good idea and a mechanism of delivery is what strengthened the Korean music industry. Afrobeats, most of the biggest songs in Afrobeats were built on PCs that are far more primitive than our mobile phones in this day and age. And that was because these young producers were making this music from their instinct to their delivery device and then to the world. And now Afrobeats becomes one of the strongest, biggest, dominant music in the world. So that's the opportunity, in my opinion. There needs to be a golden thread of, again, the bridge, the mechanism of delivery, the value, and the importance of it.
Fantastic, and this is the right room to have those discussions. I want to come now to the risks of the world we live in. We were talking backstage about Beasts of No Nation and the character there that he played and just how he influenced, but was just so dangerous, wielding so much power and pulling people into his leadership, right? And you compared that to some of the information systems and existing actors can have that power. We look at the power of AI. Again, risks. In this room, how do we create frameworks, or should we? And what responsibility do we have to ensure that the paths that we build are not dangerous ones?
Again, my instinct tells me that we should trust our instinct when it comes to AI. AI is artificial intelligence. We have actual intelligence. Actual intelligence is far more powerful. And we know it instinctually. You shake someone's hand, you have an instinct, a spark. It tells you immediately how you feel about that person. We should trust that a little bit more. I think that education around artificial intelligence is important. Some people can look at an artificial image and know immediately it's artificial, and some do not. That education, that understanding can be shared. We need to teach young people, teach systems what is real and what's not. That information should be open. People should understand this is real and this is actual. Okay, that should be shared. I do think that misinformation is the most dangerous part of artificial intelligence, because the artificial intelligence can propel and suppress. The biggest misconception about Africa is based on misinformation. And AI can propel that misinformation. So I think that policymakers need to have very good thinking about this. It's important that we think about how to suppress the misinformation that is, distributed by AI. At the same time, democratizing, the power of it to allow stories to be told and understood further is also important. I don't think we should be scared of it. I have an industry that is currently debating whether AI will take jobs and such. In our industry, you have the close-up lens, you have the mid-lens, and you have the wider lens. The wider lens, as far as I'm concerned, is that it's just another tool. If anyone's used AI, it's not easy to create avatar from prompting. It's very difficult. It's a skill set, but it is a tool, As the film showed, when printing became alive, it allowed people to see books more. AI is not different in that sense. It's a tool. I don't think we should be scared of it, but I do think we need to have some critical thinking and understanding and education about it.
Okay, thank you for that. Let's go to the breadth of things that you are doing. So I don't know if you know, ladies and gentlemen, that Idris is a UN ambassador for IFAD.
Yes.
Used to be focusing on food and security, and that's part of I've seen also with the foundation. You're working with young people in the UK on crime, and I think it's the knife crime that's been happening there. Your journey into philanthropy and the future for the work that you do, both in content and interconnecting into philanthropy, what does that look like? And maybe if you had a rallying call for this room, what would that rallying call be?
I mean, look, you know, I created the Elba-The Foundation with my wife as an answer, as a solution for being called by many different charities, foundations, organizations. And I decided that, you know, rather than do it for so many people, let's do it via one vessel, okay? The Elba-The Foundation focuses on gender equality, young people's issues, food security. We find ourselves in energy conversations. We find ourselves in education conversations. The Elba-The Foundation is really an important, you know, agile tool to be able to bridge various things, usually around youth, usually between Africa's issues and, you know, the bridge between Africa and the West, as in the diaspora. So that's what the Elba-The Foundation is really about. I think if I were to call this room, you know, every conversation that we have today is a form of advocacy, positioning. You know, His Excellency said it, a summit is for a few days, but what is happened here, what is said here can last for a long time, for a legacy. And so it's really important to every conversation we have, every connection we have, let's start that conversation with an intention, and let's build a practical way to have an outcome from that. I see, when it comes to Africa, I hear advocating. And to me, advocating is just another word. It's a lot of talk. Let's position. Let's position young people to have this. Let's position food security to do this. Let's not advocate forever. Let's position. And to position is for you and I to have this discussion. Tomorrow we have an email. On Sunday we have a practical solution that we can both work towards. And that's it. It's to follow our instincts. It's to use this opportunity at Bridge Summit to connect, form, create, and distribute ideas.
That's amazing. Just do it. Action. It's about action. And so in this last minute, you know, I want to touch on the Ubuntu spirit. And the Ubuntu spirit is the African spirit that believes that I am because you are. And the world is in such a dangerous place. It feels like it's fracturing, but we as communicators can push that energy into the ecosystems. Tell me, in a few years from now, if the work that we do in Africa and across the globe goes well, if we partner, if we build pathways to prosperity for content creators, opportunities, storytelling, I like to talk about African narrative sovereignty. Give me a headline of what it could look like if people were covering the way the world would look if communicators get it right.
I think ultimately there would be much better understanding, tolerance, and sharing of ideas, okay? Africa sits at the center of the world, has been a part and has been partners with a lot of the world. And I think that partnership, that understanding can be revitalized and strengthened. I'm hoping that we will see less conflict across Africa, especially with the youth, who are seeing a generation ahead of them leaving, quite frankly, and this youth coming in without not much to have. You know, the generation needs to leave more for the young youth. And if we get this right, we can educate this young youth to do this transition without conflict, with purpose. So that, you know, we can redesign how people see Africa and redesign how we partner with that part of the world. With stories, with communication, with teaching, with learnings, with tech, with finance, all of it.
Thank you, Son of Africa, for speaking for Africa and the content world as well. Let's give him a round of applause, please. Thank you so much, and thank you for having us.
So much fun. Loved watching you guys. Thank you, Idris. Thank you, Julie. It's always exciting and interesting when we have conversations and there is a certain focus in that conversation about, okay, it's great that we're all here and it's great that we get along and it's great that we talk and we network and we swap numbers, but then what happens tomorrow? What happens the day after? When does that email get sent? And I think the story of Bridge Summit itself is about going from the idea and the conversation and the talk to the actual action that will help to materialize the things that we hope and dream for. One thing that we can all understand and appreciate is the item that has revolutionized the world is, well, is undoubtedly the internet. And the way in which we communicate, it's quick, it's fast, but it also means that we're able to access and share information in ways that we had never done before that. Coming up is a conversation between Nikhil Kumar, who is the executive editor of Time, and a gentleman who actually thought of the logo of Reddit when he was at university. Please welcome as well, Alexis Ohanian, founder and general partner at 776.
Hello everyone, thank you so much for being here and thank you, Alexis. So like we heard in the introduction, you've kind of defined the internet for a lot of us, right, with Reddit. and one of the things that I've been thinking a lot about in this conversation is you built Reddit, you had a big hand, as I say, in defining the experience of the internet for us, but now the internet is changing, the tech world is changing. Depending on where you're standing, this keeps popping out, but let me stick it in. Depending on where you're standing, I don't know, on a monthly basis, sometimes a weekly basis, how do you now approach, now that you are not just a builder, but also an investor, particularly in today's internet, with an eye, no doubt, to what's going to happen 5 years from now. How are you looking at it? How has that perspective shifted from when you started out building?
Well, you know, you'd be hard-pressed to find someone who has spent more time building or obsessing over the online zeitgeist, for better or for worse. I mean, y'all think you're glued to your phones for 16 years building and turning around Reddit, right? Being chronically online was part of the job. And the uncomfortable truth that I don't think enough people are saying out loud, the hard truth, is that in 3 years since the debut of ChatGPT, where we blew past the Turing test, more and more of our internet is fake. Something called dead internet theory. And I wasn't the one who coined it, but I see it everywhere I look on social media. There isn't really a platform that's immune. And what does this mean? You know, it is now trivial to bot content, and whether those are fake accounts, whether those are real humans posting AI-generated content, and remember, text is a solved problem now. Because these LLMs train on social media data, there is a real business incentive to populate these spaces, whether they are subreddits, whether they're X posts, whether they're LinkedIn, whether they're Instagram, it's everywhere. No one really is immune. Because that data trains the models that inform when we ask ChatGPT, where should I go on vacation? Or what, bread maker should I buy? There's a very real economic incentive. Just like there was SEO, there's a new world of GEO, and all it is designed to basically manipulate social content in order to train and get the results that you want. SEO doesn't really hurt anyone or bother anyone in the same way that this really does. And when you think about what the implications are, you know, if you're digitally native, if you are chronically online, you're probably less likely to get duped by this content because you have a sort of immune system built up to it. But even I catch myself being misled when I'm responding to an account that I'm 99% sure is human up until that last moment when I check the profile and I'm like, nope, yeah, it's just a bot. But so this goes on, it's widespread. Probably conservatively, I'd say 20% of all the content we see on social media is fake in some form or another. And I've seen reports as high as half. And that number is only going to go up. And so someone is going to have to crack what the next wave of social media looks like that verifies humanity or somehow allows us to understand who is real without, you know, scanning everyone's retina.
Do you have a sense of what that solution might look like? Like the contours, the outlines? I mean, I suppose if you have the solution, that'd be the next big thing. But what might it look like?
I have found most of the alpha that I get now comes from group chats, and these are fairly small, maybe at most 50 to 100 people. But they're all, but why is that where the conversation is happening? It's because everyone knows that they're human, and folks understand it's sort of a safe space to be your authentic self. And so those are the criteria, and that's the why it's happening there. But obviously, using technology that's been around, I mean, group chat's been around for decades. Something is going, whatever the next thing is probably going to look like an echo of some version of that, because it starts rooted in trusted communities. But obviously, to get the magic of a Reddit or a Twitter or a LinkedIn, all these things are going to have to be scaled, right? I love all of my group chats, but I wouldn't necessarily trust all of them for recommendations on a place to vacation or a bread maker. I don't like the bread maker example, I'm just thinking of bread. The magic of these platforms is when they get to scale. So how do you reconcile getting to scale, making access to the whole world, but also fight against all the fake content? I know my crypto friends, I was a seed investor in Coinbase, and I know Brian Armstrong continues to do great work around bringing the blockchain into the world. I know my crypto friends would say that there might be an on-chain solution for this, because you have this, immutable global ledger that could, at one point, prove humanity and then be your sort of almost like digital business card to verify. But it's unclear to me. And I do think someone much smarter than me and very ambitious to solve this very big problem is going to come up with something. We'll probably see something in the next year or two. Hopefully I'll invest in it. Crowd working on it, please let me know. But what happens if you're a global multinational brand, Toyota, and why are you going to buy ads on a social media platform if a quarter or half of the people you're targeting are bots? And again, that number doesn't go down. Remember, it has now become trivial to generate text. High quality, there's no more M-dash. Remember the M-dash tell? All the kids were saying, if you use an M-dash, you're a bot. And I was personally offended by this. I love the M-dash. It's a great piece of punctuation.
I do. I use it a lot.
Use the LLMs themselves that don't have the M-dash probably.
Or just the concept with that.
We were the first one using it, okay?
The imagery has gotten so much better with Gemini's latest release. Again, it's only going to get better. Videos are just moving pictures. So I don't know when Google is going to make that, sort of counterpunch to Sora. But when it does, probably, I don't know. I do not have inside information. Probably next close to a year. I don't know. It will be a dang kind of moment for the internet, because remember, they're training on YouTube. They got a lot of video data, a lot of training data, and so I think that's going to be the moment. So we're not even talking about images and video. Like, this is just text, and it's indistinguishable.
Great. We're going to pause for a second for an announcement, and then we're going to take comments.
Gentlemen, I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Just a quick interruption to let everybody know that there is currently a closed UNESCO meeting that is taking place in the diplomacy zone. So we just wanted to make sure that you are all aware of that. It is a closed meeting and it is currently underway. Thank you for your attention. Gentlemen, if you can please continue.
Thank you. Well, that's a nice segue actually, because I wanted to talk a bit about as this issue of essentially trust online becomes a bigger and bigger thing, and I'm totally get to a solution. There's been talk already about the importance, the attractiveness going forward of live events.
Yes.
Happening in person.
Oh yeah.
And you seem like the perfect person to talk about it, given the evolution of your journey. So, without me giving all of it away, why don't you tell us about your journey after Reddit and where you've ended up, which I think is extraordinary.
Well, thank you. I resigned in protest about 5 years ago to support Reddit to push the company to finally ban some pretty vile communities around violence and racism. And it really forced me to reassess just how I wanted to spend the rest of my life, what I wanted to build, what I wanted to do. And two little girls watching as I was like, I wanted to do the best work of my career. And one of the first things I ended up doing was in sports, but specifically women's sports. And so I started a team in Los Angeles as the founding control owner called Angel City FC. At the time, most people said I was going to lose all my money, no one cares about women's sports. Thankfully, we proved them all wrong, and it's now the most valuable team in women's soccer in the United States. And thank you. We're still getting started though. Still getting started, but thank you. And subsequently, we've made more and more bets very early, investing in women's sports leagues, teams. Started Formula 1 of track and field. I hope all y'all got to go to the amazing race this past weekend of Formula 1 of track and field, starting with women's athletes. And I'm convinced that the biggest part of my legacy going forward is actually going to be in this field. And it's partially because you can see the business opportunity, and that's very clear. But in this post-AI world,
So this doesn't look good for
it
the
is obvious
pictures.
to me that coming together in person live events is the last place left in
all of the
entertainment.
people are
In a
behind.
world where every screen is going to be able to feed us exactly what we want when we want it. If you think your TikTok is addictive now, just wait when you can watch Iron Man, where you're the star of Iron Man. It is